You know that feeling when you adopt a brilliant new piece of technology that's supposed to completely revolutionize how you work?
Oh, yeah, the classic tech honeymoon phase.
Right. But then the sheer cost and, like, the complexity of actually running the thing
Mm.
makes you wonder why you even bothered in the first place.
Exactly. It's exhausting.
Now, I want you to imagine that exact scenario,
Mhm.
but you are running a massive global enterprise trying to deploy artificial intelligence.
Yeah, that is a whole different ball game.
It really is. I mean, the promise of AI is undeniably incredible, you know, but the reality on the ground,
It's messy.
very messy. Businesses are just bleeding money on computing power. The systems can be sluggish right when you need them most. And worse than that, compliance officers are losing sleep over where highly sensitive corporate data is actually going when you hit send on a prompt.
Right. It feels like you always have to compromise,
Yeah,
between capability, cost, and security. It's the classic trilemma of enterprise tech.
the trilemma, exactly.
Yeah, historically, you could really only pick two. I mean, you want it smart and secure, well, it's going to cost an absolute fortune.
Right.
But if you want it cheap and smart, you're probably sacrificing data privacy to get there.
Yeah, but what if that trilemma is fundamentally broken? Like, what if an enterprise could get the exact right amount of intellectual horsepower for a fraction of the price and with the security doors bolted completely shut?
Which sounds impossible, right?
It does, but that is exactly the shift we are unpacking today.
Yeah.
So, welcome to the deep dive. We are exploring a super fascinating technological leap coming out of Singapore by EON AI Ventures. They've just launched what they are calling the EON Switchboard.
And this launch is incredibly timely. I mean, EON Switchboard is not just another shiny new chatbot to play around with.
All right, no writing sea shanties here.
Exactly. It is an intelligent model routing and governance layer. It basically sits right between the user and the actual AI models themselves.
Wait, let's unpack this a bit. A model routing and governance layer. The core promise EON is making here is that Switchboard can deliver the best value, frontier-level quality, and strict customer-controlled security all at the same time.
Yep, simultaneously.
So to really understand how they pull that off, we have to look at the baseline of where enterprise AI actually is right now in June 2026. Because up until very recently, the standard operating procedure for a big company was simply to pick one giant AI model.
Yeah, a massive monolithic frontier model.
Right, and just force absolutely every single corporate task through that one system.
Which is wild when you think about it, and that one-size-fits-all approach is becoming entirely unsustainable.
Why is that?
Well, we're seeing a massive shift in the market dynamics of AI right now. What's happening is this rapid narrowing of the gap between the incredibly expensive models and the very cheap ones.
Okay, break that down for me.
Sure, so the so-called frontier models, those bleeding-edge, multi-billion-dollar systems, they're kind of bunching together. They're becoming somewhat indistinguishable from one another in what they can actually do.
Right, the returns are diminishing a bit.
Exactly. And because they are so incredibly massive, they are increasingly slow to run and heavily restricted.
While at the exact same time, we're seeing this total explosion in the capability of smaller, open-weight models.
Yes, exactly.
Now, for anyone listening who might not be deep in the weeds on AI terminology, what exactly makes a model open-weight?
Good question. It essentially means the core architecture and the weights, the learned parameters of the AI, the mathematical brain of the system, essentially, are made publicly available.
This is not locked away.
Right. Instead of the AI being a complete black box hidden behind some API owned by a massive tech giant, developers can just download an open-weight model, run it on their own servers, and modify it however they need.
Okay, that makes sense.
And what we are seeing now is that these open-weight alternatives have reached near frontier quality. Yeah, they are performing within a hair of the massive proprietary models, but at up to 30 times lower cost. 30 times.
That number is absolutely staggering. I mean, 30 times. It's like realizing you've been hiring a world-renowned Michelin-star chef just to, like, chop onions in boil water.
Yes. That is a perfect analogy.
It's just complete overkill, especially if you have access to a highly skilled prep cook who can chop those onions 30 times cheaper, just as fast, and with identical precision.
Exactly. You want to save that incredibly expensive Michelin chef purely for developing the highly complex creative sauce.
Right. The stuff only they can do. And that dynamic is precisely what EON Switchboard capitalizes on, isn't it?
It is. Think of Switchboard as the ultimate executive chef managing that entire kitchen. For every single query or task that an enterprise needs done, Switchboard makes a sub-millisecond judgment on how to route it.
Wait, sub-millisecond. How does it actually make that judgment so fast? Like, what's the mechanism there? How does it know if a prompt is an onion chopping task or a complex sauce task?
Well, it uses its own highly efficient, lightweight routing logic. In literally a fraction of a blink, the system evaluates the complexity of the user's prompt.
Okay.
It asks, does this request require deep, multi-step logical reasoning and advanced coding? If yes, boom, it routes it to the expensive frontier model.
Makes sense.
Or is it just asking to extract a specific name from a block of text or summarize a standard meeting transcript?
The onion chopping.
Exactly. If so, it instantly routes it to an open-weight model hosted locally. And by simply shifting the workload dynamically like this, enterprises are achieving massive cost reductions.
This is massive.
We're talking 40 to 85%,
Oh, wow.
with absolutely no visible drop in the quality of the output.
I mean, an 85% cost reduction is the kind of number that makes a CFO instantly pay attention and sign a check.
Oh, without a doubt.
But, if I'm looking at this critically, the immediate red flag for me is chaos.
A chaos, how so?
Well, if an enterprise is constantly bouncing its internal data between dozens of different models, moment to moment, task to task, doesn't that become a complete mess? I mean, you have multiple different prep cooks handling the food. How do you maintain consistency or, more importantly, control?
Yeah, that is a highly valid concern, and it's exactly why a basic, off-the-shelf router just isn't enough for a big enterprise. EON addresses this by ensuring Switchboard doesn't just route wildly based purely on cost.
Okay, so there are guardrails.
Big ones. It operates under firm, predetermined rules. The text notes that they refer to this process as commoditizing the run.
Democratizing the run.
Yeah, they are taking the actual execution of the AI model and turning it into a completely interchangeable, standardized commodity, which is managed by strict internal parameters.
Which naturally leads us to the biggest parameter of all, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a business leader listening to this and you hear that your data is being dynamically routed to all these different open weight models to save money, your immediate panic is going to be about data control.
Absolutely. Security is everything.
Because if I'm a massive enterprise operating in Europe, for instance, I have incredibly strict data localization laws. I cannot have my corporate data suddenly routed to a cheap model sitting on a server in some non-compliant jurisdiction.
No, you'd be heavily fined.
Exactly. So how does this system actually prevent a geographical data leak?
This is where EON introduces what is arguably the most critical feature of the entire architecture. They call it the sovereignty switch.
A sovereignty switch.
Huh.
That is a really fascinating way to frame it. It implies you can, literally flip a breaker on where your data is legally and physically allowed to travel.
That is exactly how it functions, because as you said, enterprises operate in a highly complex web of international regulations, data localization laws, and, frankly, legitimate corporate espionage concerns.
Right.
A standard router just looks for the cheapest or fastest model. It's completely blind to where that model physically lives or who ultimately controls the server.
This just cares about speed and price.
Exactly. But EON Switchboard allows enterprises to choose, on a per-tenant basis, the exact geopolitical classes of models that are allowed to process their work.
So a company can actually dictate the geopolitics of their AI infrastructure.
Yes, they have total control.
What do those options actually look like in practice, according to EON?
Well, EON provides several distinct compliance postures in the system. An enterprise can set a posture that is strictly U.S. only, for example.
Yeah.
That ensures their data only ever touches models and infrastructure governed by United States jurisdiction.
Makes sense for certain defense contractors or something.
Exactly. Alternatively, they can choose an allied and open weight posture, which broadens the net a bit while maintaining specific strategic alliances.
Right.
Or for organizations operating under entirely different regulatory environments, they can select a global South permissive posture.
And just to be completely clear for you listening, we aren't suggesting one of these postures is inherently better or, more ethical than the other.
No, not at all.
This isn't about pushing a political agenda. It entirely depends on the enterprise's specific legal requirements, where their physical operations are located, and what local data sovereignty laws dictate. The real power here is simply that the business has the dial to turn.
Precisely. It is purely a mechanism for verifiable compliance. And what makes this governance ironclad is how deeply it's actually enforced.
How so?
Most commercial routers out there optimize only for cost and quality. Almost none let the customer choose and mathematically verify their own security posture. Switchboard default locks the security choice to whatever was agreed upon by the enterprise's compliance team.
Ah, meaning you completely eliminate the rogue developer problem.
Yes.
You can't have a developer who's on a tight deadline just bypassing the security settings to save a few bucks on a fast API call to some unsecured server abroad.
Exactly. The system physically blocks the routing if it violates the posture. It can only be changed by an authorized administrator, and every single change is immutably logged.
Oh, the auditors must love that.
Oh, yeah. If a compliance officer or an external auditor comes knocking, that logging capability is absolute gold. It provides a crystal clear, verifiable trail of data governance.
You know, there is a really powerful philosophy driving this. I was looking at a quote from Dan Ladurscar. He's the founder and chairman of EON AI Ventures. He says, "We never make them choose between cost, quality, and security."
Which solves the trilemma we talked about earlier.
Exactly. And that is really the crux of why this matters. It removes the anxiety of the unknown. It puts verifiable security posture firmly back into the hands of the business.
It builds a foundation of absolute trust. And honestly, here is where the story really shifts.
Oh,
Because once you have that trust, once the cost, the quality, and the security are definitively solved at the foundational infrastructure level, you can start doing much, much more interesting things with the AI.
right, because you don't build an ironclad, hyper-efficient routing fortress just to, like, draft polite emails to clients.
Definitely not.
If the kitchen is humming perfectly, what are they actually cooking? The text explicitly states that Switchboard is designed for problems that a single, general-purpose AI model cannot solve on its own.
That's right. If you just want to summarize a PDF document, you don't need a complex sovereignty switch. EON is focusing its ecosystem on a very specific, highly complex domain. They call it work intelligence and physical AI.
Physical AI. I mean, that sounds like we're talking about robotics, but it's much deeper than that, isn't it?
It is. Work intelligence isn't about office administration or generating marketing copy. It's about deeply understanding real-world expert work.
Okay.
EON defines it as the AI understanding the physical equipment, the exact operational procedure, and the verified competence record of the human worker.
Okay, let's put this in the real world to really visualize it.
Yeah.
Say I've got a technician staring down a malfunctioning offshore wind turbine.
Perfect example.
High stakes, right? Salt spray, cold wind. Maybe they are wearing an AR headset to look at the machinery. A standard massive AI model might be able to tell you the general physics of how a wind turbine operates, but it fails completely in that specific moment.
Entirely. A general AI doesn't know that this specific turbine had its gearbox replaced 6 months ago.
Right.
It doesn't know the proprietary safety protocols of that specific energy company, and it certainly doesn't know if the specific technician standing in front of it is currently certified to perform high-voltage maintenance.
But work intelligence does.
Exactly, but providing that intelligence requires pulling together multiple highly specialized AI models and orchestrating them perfectly.
So in that wind turbine scenario, Switchboard isn't just asking one big AI. It's, what, routing the camera feed to a specialized vision model to identify the broken part?
Yes.
And then it's routing a query to a separate internal policy model to check the safety manual?
Yep.
And then routing the technician's ID to an HR model to verify their certifications, all in milliseconds.
Exactly. All of that happening in parallel, securely. And EON AI Ventures has the pedigree to actually pull this off.
Yeah, they aren't some overnight startup trying to ride the generative AI hype cycle.
Not at all. They are building on a 25-year foundation of immersive learning technology. They've deployed massive industrial training platforms across more than 80 countries.
That legacy is a massive validator. I mean, it means they already have deep established roots in complex industrial training and field operations. They already know how the actual work is done.
Right. They aren't guessing.
So Switchboard is really just the newest, smartest infrastructure layer sitting underneath their entire existing ecosystem.
Yes, and it doesn't operate in a vacuum. Switchboard dynamically powers specific targeted tools that workers use in the field. Things like Genesis, EON Universal, Field IQ, Assess IQ, Soft Skills, and Customer Virtual.
That's a huge suite of tools.
It is. And to manage the sheer complexity of that wind turbine scenario we just talked about, Switchboard works alongside two other core components. They're called EON Conductor and EON Verdict.
Okay, how do those fit into the orchestration?
Think of EON Conductor as the director of the symphony. It maps out the complex workflow.
Like, first check the vision, then check the safety, then the certification.
Exactly. It sets the plan. Then Switchboard is the engine that actually finds the absolute best, fastest and safest instruments to play those specific notes.
I see.
And finally, you have EON Verdict, which acts as the ultimate gatekeeper.
So Verdict evaluates the final answer before the technician ever hears it.
Yes. It mathematically verifies the output for safety and accuracy against the company's rules before that instruction is delivered to the human worker.
That is critical for reliability.
Oh, absolutely. And this capability has already been rigorously tested. It's been developed against deployments with two of the world's largest energy companies.
Which really is the ultimate stress test. I mean, energy companies have massive, highly regulated physical infrastructure, dangerous operating environments, and a desperate need for absolute precision.
If a work intelligence platform can handle an offshore rig, it can handle almost any enterprise environment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, seeing how seamlessly Switchboard integrates into this massive ecosystem reveals something even bigger, I think. It reveals a totally different philosophy on what artificial intelligence actually is to a business.
Yeah, this is perhaps the most critical paradigm shift in this entire discussion. Mats Johansson, the president and co-founder of EON AI Ventures, makes a crucial distinction in the text. He says, this is an architecture, not a feature.
That is such an important phrasing. I mean, a feature is something you toggle on and off inside an app, and architecture is the foundation of the house itself.
Precisely. Because it's an architecture, once a customer sets their sovereignty switch, their fundamental security posture, every single product in that ecosystem instantly inherits those exact same guarantees.
Right.
But the real intellectual leap is what this architecture relies on to function. EON utilizes what they call a composable ontology.
Okay, composable ontology. That sounds incredibly dense for anyone outside of, computer science.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean for a company trying to adopt this?
Sure, think of an ontology as the company's unique DNA, but mapped out in a way a computer can perfectly understand.
Okay.
It is a highly structured web of relationships. It maps out exactly how the business operates, the unique vocabulary it uses, the history of its equipment, the hierarchy of its procedures.
So it's everything that makes that company that company.
Yes. It is the deep structural understanding of the enterprise's specific world.
Okay, so if the ontology holds all the actual knowledge and the structure of the business, and Switchboard is handling all the complex routing to keep it fast and secure, what does that mean for the AI model itself? The thing everyone is currently so obsessed with.
Well, this is the paradigm shift. In this architecture, the AI model is effectively demoted.
Demoted. Wait, that is not how anyone in tech is talking right now. Everyone treats the models like they're magic.
It's true, though. In this system, the AI model becomes a mere commodity input. It is reduced to just raw processing power.
Like electricity.
Exactly like electricity. The actual product, the thing of massive compounding proprietary value, is the understanding. It is the composable ontology.
Wow.
It is the captured, verified knowledge of how expert work is done within that specific enterprise. The AI is just the CPU that processes that knowledge at any given moment.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. If the AI model is just a commodity input, just interchangeable prep cooks that you can swap out in a millisecond depending on who is cheapest today, then the power dynamic between the enterprise and the massive tech giants completely flips.
It really does.
EON's ultimate thesis is spelled out perfectly in the source material. Stop renting intelligence. Own it instead.
It is a profound challenge to the current status quo, because right now, most companies are simply renting their intelligence.
Yeah, they pay massive monthly fees to external APIs, they send their proprietary queries over the wall, and they get answers back.
But they aren't building any internal equity. The AI provider gets smarter by learning from the world, but the enterprise's own knowledge remains disjointed and heavily reliant on that external vendor.
It's the exact same logic as real estate. It's like renting an apartment for 20 years. You pay an absolute fortune, but at the end of it, you don't own the building. You haven't built any equity at all.
Exactly.
EON is saying, build a switchboard, map your own ontology, and suddenly you are building a house you actually own. The intelligence becomes a compounding corporate asset that belongs to you.
And by turning these models into interchangeable commodities, EON is offering enterprises a way to entirely future-proof themselves against the AI arms race. Well, it doesn't matter if Model A beats Model B on a benchmark test tomorrow. It doesn't matter who releases the next big update. Switchboard will simply route to the new winner instantly, while the company's core work intelligence, their ontology, their security posture, their understanding remains perfectly secure and fully intact.
That is brilliant. Okay, let's bring all of this together. We started by exploring the deep frustration of navigating enterprise AI today, right?
Mm.
The high costs, the sluggish speeds, the terrifying security and compliance risks.
Yeah.
The era of relying on one massive, wildly expensive AI model to do everything from writing emails to diagnosing wind turbines is clearly coming to an end.
It is entirely unsustainable for specialized, secure enterprise work.
Exactly. And what we've discovered through looking at EON Switchboard is that by using an intelligent routing architecture, enterprises can fundamentally rewrite the rules.
Yep.
They can cut their execution costs by up to 85% by routing simpler tasks to incredibly capable open-weight models while reserving the massive computational power only for the tasks that truly need it. And they maintain absolute frontier-level quality.
And crucially, they utilize that unique sovereignty switch to tightly control the geopolitical footprint of their data. That mathematically locks out rogue routing and ensures absolute compliance.
Which ultimately allows them to capture the real prize, owning their corporate intelligence rather than endlessly renting it.
Yeah.
It's about moving from a novelty chatbot that can, write a poem to highly structured physical AI that genuinely understands how your business operates in the real world.
It is an incredibly compelling vision for the future of work. But, if we connect this shift to the broader tech industry, it leaves us with a rather profound implication for the current titans of Silicon Valley.
Ooh, I like where this is going. What is the lingering question here?
Well, if architectures like EON Switchboard are widely successful, if they truly manage to turn the world's most advanced AI models into cheap, highly interchangeable commodities routed in a sub-millisecond based purely on price and compliance, what happens to the massive tech labs?
Oh, wow.
What happens to the companies spending tens of billions of dollars right this second to build those monolithic frontier models? If the true enterprise value moves entirely to the routing switchboard and the company's own proprietary ontology, will the giant AI builders of today eventually become the invisible utility companies of tomorrow?
That is a crazy thought.
Will they just become the power plants, just faceless pipes providing raw compute while we stop caring entirely about how the electricity is actually generated?
Wow. Going from building the multi-million-dollar Formula One car that everyone's obsessed with to just being the invisible company that provides the electricity to the garage, that is a massive paradigm shift and definitely something to chew on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we'll see you next time.